So, looking at these stats, and to help us flip this script, we have a woman who's the definition of an advocate. She's a registered document preparer with over 20 years of legal experience and the vice president
and chair of the National Workplace Bullying Coalition. Please welcome the owner, Ms. Camay of International, the People's Advocate herself. Hi, Ms. Camay. How are you doing?
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Thank you. How are you ladies today?
We're doing great. And thank you so much for joining us. And as we were speaking prior to the recording, we were talking about how much something like this is needed at this point. And how you came about into our search. So we are extremely happy to have you with us, and we have a lot of listeners here that need to hear what you have to say.
And like their options, like what they can do in these environments that are just toxic, you know?
Sure. Well, I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So we're going to jump right into it. You're a fierce advocate for Dignity at Work Act. And I guess you pronounced that DAWA. Is that DAWA?
DAWA.
Yeah, DAWA. So how would this legislation change the game for those 52 million people currently suffering?
Great question. So the foundation of DAWA, which is the Dignity at Work Act, this proposed legislation was prepared by our emeritus president, Jerry Carbo. And the legislation essentially, what it does is it holds employers and individuals accountable for inflicting intentional harm in the workplace. And it's not a catch-all be-all, right? Okay. So the board members and our advocates with the National Workplace Bullying Coalition, we understand that there are employers out there who have a no bullying tolerance or have a zero tolerance for bullying in workplaces. We know there are employers, corporations, people in upper management who do not allow this type of behavior. So DAWA is not a catch-all be-all. It is not legislation that essentially, would give a target the right to sue, every employer that they believe is bullying them or harassing them, right? So there is language in the legislation which actually outlines protections for employers who actually take on active complaints and active investigations into complaints of bullying in the workplace. And so there are measures outlined that if an employer, takes action, if an employer does, A, B, C, D, they essentially could be protected from being sued for compliance, addressing a complaint of workplace bullying. And so we believe at NWBC that that's an important aspect of the legislation because, again, there are organizations out there who do address bullying, who have a zero tolerance for bullying in the workplace.
Okay.
And so we want to make sure that those employers, those organizations, those corporations are protected from, say, a frivolous lawsuit, right? We also address in the proposed legislation that this is a bipartisan issue. This isn't, legislation for the left or the right or for Democrats or for Republicans. Excellent. This legislation is for the people.
Right.
And when it comes to corporations and companies and businesses, bullying in the workplace costs thousands of dollars. Okay. One bully in one workplace can cost in 1 year, can cost an organization almost $1 billion in lieu of lost productivity,
turnaround,
sick time, people calling out, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so when we present this proposed legislation to, both sides of the aisle, essentially, and, we talk about the costs associated with one bully in one workplace. And we show these corporations and these companies the financial damage that they potentially are experiencing or will experiencing by allowing this type of behavior, it gets their attention, right? And that's the foundation of DAWA. There are other states, there are other advocacy groups that are lobbying proposed legislation around the country. The state of Oregon has been successful in passing a Senate Bill 851, and our current vice president with NWBC was actually very influential there in Oregon with that bill. And, you know, that's essentially our conversation with local and state legislators in the states that we are currently lobbying DAWA. Is we talk about not just, you know, the mental and physical effects on a target, but also the financial damages to the company, to the corporation, for this behavior.
Well, as we're speaking now, the DAWA, who do you think is, I guess, given the current, I guess, status quo in the current administration, where there's been a lot of cutbacks in essentially in departments like EEOC and things of that Department of Labor. How does your drive or what you're doing now currently, you know, work in this environment? Do you feel like you're getting pushback or more pushback, or do you feel like more and more people are stepping up to the plate to help?
Yeah, so I'll just speak specifically to Nevada because I live in Las Vegas, and that's where I'm currently lobbying for DAWA. Right now, Nevada is being ran by a Republican governor, Governor Joe Lombardo, here in Las Vegas. And he was our sheriff before he became our governor. And, you know, everybody loved him as the sheriff. He was a great sheriff, you know, for us and in our community here. And, you know, the thing about these programs, right, at the state level, they're funded from the federal level, right? And so anytime the administration changes, anything changes on the federal level, oftentimes, you know, states fall in line because that's where the money is coming from, or that's where the funding is coming from. And if they don't, quote unquote, fall in line, they essentially lose this federal funding.
Gotcha.
And so what I've learned in the last couple of years is that that's kind of how the game is played, right? And unfortunately, it isn't necessarily, you know, what our state legislators necessarily believe to be right or to be wrong. But it is, they're following suit. And, you know, they're falling in line essentially because, again, you know, there's so much money on the line. There's so much funding, you know, other programs, so many things that we don't even probably even know all of the things that are on the line when it comes to federal administration and what they're doing for the states, right? And those relationships. That's kind of why we have the problems we're having now, right?
Exactly.
And so to answer your question, you know, to be an advocate for the people. So here in Las Vegas, it is a very small town in a big city, if you will, because we've got the Strip here. And a lot of tourism and, you know, the hustle and bustle of the Strip. So you feel like it's a big city, but it is very much a small town. You can drive around the entire valley, like within 45 minutes. It's so small here.
It is. It really is.
Very, very small. And the local community is who is serving tourism. The local community is who works at the Strip. The local community, the people who were born here, the people who are raised here. You know, transplants like myself and my husband. I relocated here from Seattle, Washington. My husband relocated here from California, like a lot of Californians do, right? A lot of California comes to Vegas. We've developed a love for the city. A love for the city, a love for the people in the city, a love for the tourists that come to the city. People from all around the world come to Vegas, you know? And so when I'm approaching our state legislators, That's really my conversation with them is, there are people in these workplaces that have bad behavior, and they are bullying employees, they're harassing employees, they're causing, mental health issues, they're causing your employees to call out sick, they're causing your employees to leave. People don't quit the company.
Yeah.
They quit the boss. They
The
quit
boss.
the manager.
Absolutely.
And so, in my conversation with them, that's what I focus on is this is our community of Las Vegas. We are the ones who are working in these companies and these corporations. You guys are kind of, so far removed from what's really going on here, right?
Unless it's happening in their own house.
Yeah.
Correct. And we need to make sure that we protect our community and we protect our constituents here in our community that are serving our city, that are providing these places for tourists to come and enjoy and experience things here they never experience anywhere else. And again, focusing on the bottom line. I feel like companies and corporations tend to care, and I hate to say this, but I feel like they care more about the dollar than they essentially do the people.
Yeah, the bottom line is always the key factor, and 99% of the decisions that are made in corporate America.
So
Yes.
true. So for someone who is feeling like paralyzed, gossip is happening around them, all that toxic behavior, that's their situation. What do you think the first action they should take?
I know this answer. Me.
Well, so I will share, I am no stranger to being bullied in the workplace. I was bullied in a staff council office working for Allstate Insurance back in 2013 when I lived in Washington State, by an attorney, by a female attorney.
A female attorney. Wow.
Yes. It's always been a female. It's always been a female attorney. Always
a woman.
Yes.
No, it's not.
It's all.
I know.
Okay, you guys are taking a drink too. Okay, so here I go.
Take a sip, honey.
I got my boss lady mug right here.
I love it.
So, I, when it was happening to me, I initially kind of chalked it up to, this is a new attorney. She's new at managing this office. She's new at managing people. She doesn't necessarily know what a paralegal does or, what my day in the life is. And so I really kind of gave her a pass, essentially, for what she was doing. And, I found myself like kind of explaining and correcting the behavior inaccuracies that she was referencing. Okay. And it continued and continued and continued and continued. And it became, it started to consume my every day, 8 hours a day. So I was going into work, anticipating, okay, what am I going to have to address with her today rather than, okay, what is on my desk that I need to get done today? And, I did not realize that I was being bullied in the workplace, but I was definitely feeling the pressure. I was definitely frustrated. It was definitely affecting my mental health. And I think, I'm sure you ladies can relate, right? We're boss ladies, right? We know what we're doing. We're the best at what we do. We know our job.
Yes.
We don't work. Yes. We've been in our role for quite some time, so it's not like it's our first day of work.
On our first rodeo here.
Correct. And so, I didn't realize that I was being bullied until somebody actually said it. Until somebody said to me, "Miss Camay, you are being bullied by this woman."
Right.
And so that shifted my mindset. So instead of I'm just trying to help her along, it became, okay, like she's bullying me and she's referencing inaccuracies, like I was very careful what I was saying, but she was essentially lying about my work product and my work and what I was doing or what I wasn't doing. And so, to answer your question, what can somebody do if they are realizing that, okay, this isn't just, a manager that doesn't know, or a manager that's kind of lost, that this is really bad behavior. Things are happening in meetings, this person's calling me out in front of other employees, or this person is sending emails and, chastising me and copying other people on the email. Um, my first recommendation would be to schedule an appointment with their primary care doctor. And this is a very important aspect of building an administrative complaint against a bullying employer. The very, very, very first, most important step is to start to build your medical team, because your medical doctor is the only professional that can diagnose any mental health disorder that a person would have. Not your friend, not your other coworker who's
spouse
in the workplace as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you want to establish care and establish treatment for what's happening in the workplace earlier rather than later. You want to get in front of the 8 ball rather than behind it. And so that would be my first suggestion, is to get an appointment with your medical primary care doctor and schedule an appointment with them and start talking to them about what's going on in the workplace and how you're feeling. And do you want me to elaborate on kind of the basis for that?
Well, you know what? Before you do,
Yes.
from an HR perspective, I also want to make sure everybody knows that even if they have the least amount of suspicion, that they document everything.
Yes, documentation.
Document everything. But yes, I'm gonna go ahead and let you finish.
Yes, no, that's great.
Good,
And documentation, was going to be the extension of that, right?
Okay,
And
yeah.
in our documentation, we need to document the facts.
Okay.
We need to leave the drama out of it, leave the theatrics out of it.
Feelings.
Yes.
Facts only.
Yes. Like, this is not Jerry Springer. This is not, working with the Kardashians or whatever that show is.
Not unless you are, I mean.
Yes. Yes. So when a person is being abused, right? It affects their mental health. That's just really kind of the basic principle. Okay. And so when it comes to your workplace, and when there's bad behavior going on in the workplace, and you go to your primary care doctor and you have this conversation with them, and you explain to them, this is what's going on and this is how I'm feeling. So what your primary care doctor is going to do is they are going to diagnose you. They're going to diagnose the symptoms that you are experiencing from being bullied in the workplace. And so again, and the only person who can make that diagnosis is a medical professional, right? A medical doctor, psychologist, psychiatrist, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So when that happens, when your medical professional diagnoses you with a mental health disorder, that target now becomes an American with a disability. And the Americans with Disabilities Act provides federal protections on the federal level, because they are now an American with a disability, and that they've been diagnosed by a medical professional with severe stress, depression, whatever it may be.
Anxiety, all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so when you are now an American with a disability, you are now afforded protections under the Americans with Disabilities Act. And so, going back to your documentation, right? So you've got these medical records, you've got this documentation, your medical doctor has diagnosed you with this mental health disorder. You're now an American with a disability. So you are now entitled to make workplace accommodation requests under the Americans with Disabilities Act, and under the law, under federal law, your employer is required to consider those accommodations. And so let me talk accommodations a little bit.
Oh, yes, do please.
So accommodations are different for every workplace, right? So for example, you're in a workplace, you're on site, you go to work every day, going to the office every day. You got this, boss that's bullying you, or this employee that's bullying you. You go to the doctor. You're an American, you're diagnosed with this disorder. So now you're entitled to protection. So you can now go to your HR department.
Listen up, people.
Please listen to this.
You can now go to your HR department and you can provide documentation, that you are being harassed and bullied in the workplace. And here's your medical documentation. Here is your diagnosis from your doctor. And you now want to make a reasonable workplace accommodation request to work remotely. Okay. So, and again, the word reasonable,
Right.
that's a key word here. So anytime I'm consulting with clients who are in this situation, we talk about their workplace. Well, what is your workplace? How is it set up? Because your workplace accommodation has to be reasonable. And your employer is not mandated under the law to accept the request, but they are required to consider it within the normal course of business. So if your reasonable accommodation does not disrupt the normal course of business, your employer almost has to accept or approve that request. So it has to be reasonable. So there are some workplaces, that there is no like working remotely, right? That's just not how their business model is set up. Like if you work in construction, right, you have to go to the job site. There's no
Yes.
remote working,
Right.
So reasonable accommodations are different for everybody. And any target who's being bullied, they absolutely need to work with somebody who is skilled and well experienced in working with a medical doctor, working with their medical team, understanding their workplace and what reasonable accommodations can be requested in order to change the environment for that target, in order to change that bullying or harassment that's going on, removing that target from that environment in that calculated strategic manner so that they can stay employed, maintain their integrity at their job, maintain their loyalty there, and essentially force the company to, make this accommodation to help change the environment for them.
Well, you and I both know that even remotely, these things can be done through Slack, Teams, Zoom. The bullying can continue. So,
Yes.
how do we document harassment that isn't happening face to face?
Okay.
Well, documenting, writing down. I was in a meeting. I was called into a meeting, this day, Miss Camay was there, Julie was there, the manager was there. The meeting started at this point, at this time. This is what was said. This is what happened. This is what my response was. Documenting in Word documents, documenting in your Google Calendar, making an entry daily, at the end of your day, going through and writing notes and recapping, what happened, during the day. A lot of bullying, and harassment can happen in person, right? Kind of behind closed doors where it's, maybe one or two people that are there, right? And so something that I tell my clients is, you have to be subordinate at work. If you're insubordinate, like that is immediate termination, and they're waiting for that.
That's
They're
exactly
yes,
right.
they're waiting for that. So, you need to be subordinate. You need to be professional. If they call you into meeting, go into the meeting, grab your notepad, grab your boss lady mug, right? Your boss lady mug.
Yeah.
Remind them who you are.
Yes. And do your
Take a
job. And do
notepad.
your job. And
Yes.
continue to do your job.
Yeah, you take a notepad, and in this closed door meeting, you're taking notes. You take notes about what they're asking you, what they're saying. And if you're, because you want, a target wants to minimize or limit the interaction with their bully, right? They want to kind of try to control that. And so in these closed door meetings, when you're there, you're simply listening and you're simply taking notes. And for example, if you're asked a question, hey, what happened here? Or, how do you explain this? Or what can you tell me about that? The target's response, they're going to write it down. They're going to write the question down that they're being asked. And then they're going to say, I can't really answer that right now, or I don't have enough information right now to answer that question, but I've made a note here. I've written it down that, you want an answer from me. And so after the meeting, I'll follow up, I'll answer you, and I'll follow up, with my answer. So it will potentially keep the meeting moving on. You're being subordinate, you're attending the meeting, you're not engaging or exchanging with them. And there really isn't much that they can say. Like, they can keep asking you the question and your response continues to be, I've made a note here. I need to look into this, before I give you my answer.
Right.
And so when the meeting is over, you go back to your desk or you go back to your office, and then you simply document or materialize the meeting and what you were asked and what happened. And then you can provide your answers to whatever you were asked in that meeting.
Right.
So what it does three things. You maintain your personal power, right? Because you stay in control, you stay in your safe space, and you're simply listening and you're taking notes because this is your strategy, and you're protecting yourself from engaging and being, bullied or harassed or mistreated. So you're maintaining your personal power. When you come out of the meeting, you are empowered because you're walking out of the meeting with all of the power and all of the control and all of the information that you need in order to respond. And then when you go back to your office or you go back to your desk, you're not in this fight or flight situation. You're not on the spot. You're not, having to answer and come up with something that you might say is wrong, or, you might give the wrong information. So again, you're still maintaining your personal power, your own personal control, and you're able to actually respond and answer the questions. You're able to think about it. You're able to do research, go back and look at other emails, go back and look at documents, go look at your call logs, essentially. Everything is tracked. Everything is documented, everything that we do. Right. And so it gives you the opportunity to, come back to the question and give a calculated, strategic, complete response rather than, a rushed something that could be wrong that they potentially would use against you. And
okay.
So when you move in that direction, so what it does, it definitely gets their attention. Okay.
It does. Yes. Sure does. I'm like, you're not responsive. I could imagine.
Yes. It
might be like you're shut down.
No, it's like, what is she writing?
Correct. So you're taking their power out of the situation.
You're actually putting them on the defensive at that point.
Yeah.
Correct.
I like that.
But then lastly, you're showing them that you are documenting everything that's happening. You're documenting.
At that point that they realize something's going on.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Get it together.
Exactly.
Okay, so talking about taking your power back, can you explain your calculated one-on-one process mapping and how it helps people take their power back?
Yeah, so great question. Oftentimes when clients come to me, they come to me after they've been bullied in the workplace for a substantial amount of time. They feel that they have no other option, that they have no other choice. Most of my clients are well-tenured employees. They've been in their role for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. And they are really struggling with, understanding, why this is happening to them. Yeah. Because they are so tenured, like I said, it's not their first day of work,
Right.
And so, in my one-on-one process mapping consultations, I explain to them, you are in an environment where leadership is allowing this type of behavior. Oftentimes leadership knows it's been reported before, or they've already reported it. My clients have already gone to HR. And sometimes, unfortunately, there are just these bullying environments. And it starts at the top and, it trickles down yet to the bottom. And so I tell my clients, you have 10 years of experience in your field. 10 years of experience. How many other law offices, how many other hospitals, how many other schools, how many other fire departments, whatever industry they're in, how many, other offices do you think would be ecstatic to have you,
Someone like yourself.
yes,
Exactly.
come into their office with 10 years of experience? How?
Takes a lot of convincing sometimes, though. But you're
Well,
right. Yeah,
yes,
trying to.
I think not necessarily convincing, but somebody to actually speak that power into them.
There you go.
Wow.
There you go.
Yes.
Because
feeling small.
bullies
Yeah.
bullies bully the most liked, most tenured employee. They really
Absolutely.
they really don't bully, like the new girl. Like the new girl, they rally. They want the new girl to like join their team, and like, they kind of bring them in like under their wing, right? But
Oh,
the
gosh.
employee that is well liked,
Mhm.
boss lady Miss Camay, the pageant queen, the bling, the sparkle, they're like, "Ugh,"
Yeah.
so to remind my clients, to remind targets of how powerful they are, how much experience they have, how much knowledge they have. And, to help them realize you can't keep asking, why is this person doing this to me? Why don't they like me? Why is this happening? Because you're just spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
What you want to focus on is, what? If this company is going to allow this type of behavior, and if this corporation is going to, support this type of toxic environment, I don't want to be here
I don't want to
anyway.
be here.
I don't want to be here anyway. They don't value me. They don't respect me. They definitely don't appreciate me. I've been here
Mm.
for 10 years.
Yeah.
And the new girl that they just hired, she's not coming in here with 10 years experience. So if this is what they want to do, and if this is how they want to run it, and if this is how, corporate leadership is, like funneling all of this, it's time for me to move on. And I say that to my clients. You very well may have reached the epitome of the job that you have right now. You may well have be at the finish line.
Time to move on.
Time to
Yes.
move on.
And this is a clear indication that it's time for you to elevate yourself. And I say, because we want to be careful, right? Not everybody is religious. Some people are believers, some people are not. But I say to them, sometimes, like I know for myself, I've been, slapped upside the head with a 2x4 sometimes
Oh,
in
Lord.
life to get my attention, because
Yeah.
I'm committed. I'm
Yeah.
not a
Right.
quitter. I don't
Okay.
give up. I'm not going to quit. In
There
fact,
you go.
when I was at Allstate, I refused to leave. I
Right.
refused. I mean, like threw a tantrum, threw myself down on the ground, stomped my feet, threw a fit,
Get out.
refusing. I refused to let her make me leave here.
Right.
Yeah.
And it almost cost me my life, refusing to leave because I'm not a quitter,
See?
right? And
Mm.
so I learned in my own experience, most everything that I teach in my consulting sessions, or most everything that I consult on in my consulting sessions, because I was there once myself. And so and especially when it comes to women, who who's empowering us? I mean, we have husbands, we have daughters, right? We have our beautiful daughters and our fabulous boss lady moms, right? And we encourage and empower each other. Yes, yes. But in the workplace, who's empowering us?
Yourself in the mirror.
Yes, it's up to us.
Yeah.
It's up to
Yeah.
us. Exactly. Exactly. If we look for outward recognition
Or
or
validation.
never
it's not
coming.
there.
yes, exactly.
coming.
It's never going to come. And it's not over there for us. It's right here for us.
Yeah.
It's right
Yeah.
here for us.
Yeah.
Yes.
So to tell a woman, look, you've been in this job, you've been in this role, corporate is allowing this, you've gone to your doctor, this is affecting your health. You've got your diagnosis, you've made your workplace accommodation requests, like now, and I tell clients, we're about to go play for the Lombardi Trophy. We're not playing on elementary school recess. We're not riding the merry-go-round. We're not crossing the monkey bars anymore. We're playing in the Super Bowl now.
Right.
Yes.
This is a
Right.
game changer, So you got to be ready. Like you got to play professional sports. So we got to be ready for this.
True.
You're in the big
And
leagues now.
so to empower them, which elevates their self-awareness, it elevates their own identity of themselves as a professional. It's a game changer. It really helps them to think forward. And it helps them to move on. Some of my clients have gone on to leave corporate America and start their own consulting business and start their own business because they realize and they understand, hey, I'm the one here that's doing this job and doing it fabulously and flawlessly. And, here I'm getting treated this way. Like I can go take my skills and I can go provide my service as an
Somewhere else.
independent contractor to, to the next generation of corporate managers at this job.
Okay.
Or start my own. How about that?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
So let me ask this question. From a legal standpoint, though, what are the most common mistakes people make when they are documenting their abuse?
Oh, what are the common mistakes? I would say the dramatics, the theatrics.
Okay.
Documenting, she said this and I feel like this and I
Leave
feel
your
like
feelings
that
out.
and I think this and I think that. And another common mistake is, they try to seek support and validation from a coworker, which is a huge mistake. Because here's the thing. People in the workplace that are not being directly targeted, they are considered bystanders. So they're the cheerleaders, right? They're or the audience. They're sitting out here in the back in the bleachers and they see the whole game going on. They see it, they hear it, they watch it. It actually affects their own mental health. They just don't realize it because it's not directly happening to them, but it is affecting their mental health because they're seeing another human being abused.
Right.
Okay.
True.
But at the same time, they don't want to become the target.
Exactly.
Okay.
So,
And that is
Okay,
truly
the
always the
bystander.
count. The by-
Yeah, the bystander. Okay.
so as long as they are watching you being bullied,
Mhm.
they're safe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
okay.
they can have compassion and empathy for you, and really feel bad for you, but
That's
they
it.
correct. They don't want to trade places with you.
Well, okay.
And
That's real.
yes, and they don't want to become the next target.
Yeah.
I get it.
So that's probably, I think, the biggest mistake that I see targets going to other coworkers within, their office or within the organization, to discuss and talk about what is happening, or name other people, other coworkers that have seen or witnessed something, to try to, kind of convince them or kind of push them into becoming an advocate or to speaking up and saying, yeah, I saw that happen, or yes, that happened. Because here's the thing. If it comes down to you getting fired or them getting fired, who do you think they want to get fired? Not them.
Absolutely.
So true.
And so
They're not going to throw themselves under the bus.
correct. So you guys can go to lunch and, girl, and yes, and oh, and it, and I just, and then you go back into the office. And then if you say, hey, HR, I was just at lunch with Miss Camay and, she said this and that. And Miss Camay is going to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. And that's kind of like a compounded, sense of devastation.
It is.
You're being, mistreated in the workplace. You're being abused. You're going to this coworker that you're confiding in. So you're building trust, and you're really feeling supported. And then, it comes down to it. And here comes the situation. And then, they are definitely not going to, they're not going to be the example. They're not going to be the sacrificial lamb for
And they
you.
really can't help you anyway, to be
Correct.
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're HR, so you understand,
Right.
they would have to go to HR independently.
Yes.
Without even you knowing, to actually report, hey, I was at work today and I saw this and I saw that, as an independent, complaint or report.
Absolutely.
But that I would say that's the biggest mistake that I see is targets going to coworkers, for support or, advocacy. And, it's just a whole nother level of devastation and violation, on top of what's already going on. And that can be very detrimental to a person's mental health, especially, depending on their initial diagnosis and things that they're struggling with personally. So
Well, speaking of the mental health part of it, you were kind of touching base on what you've experienced also. And so what are the physical warning signs that our bodies go through when you're experiencing a toxic workplace?
well, it's different for everybody. It definitely is different for everybody. Common, mental health disorders are, suicidal ideations. People feeling like that is their only option to stop the behavior is, by ending their own life because
Or someone else's.
Oh,
yes,
We don't talk about that enough.
That's
I mean, how many people have gone into their workplace and done something very terrible, or an ex-workplace and done something
Correct.
very terrible because,
that's so sad.
the warning lights were there, the signs were
Correct.
there, but no one
Correct.
took it seriously.
Correct. Well, and I'll just share from my personal experience. I worked on the 23rd floor downtown Seattle at
Okay.
Allstate. And I got to a point where I was having dreams about throwing my boss, out the 23rd window of the building. Like
I mean,
vivid.
you can't laugh about this, but I'm sure
But
at
it's-
some point we've all felt
Yes.
something to that effect at
Yes.
some point.
Well, because so here's the thing, in school, I was bullied in school.
Mhm.
And, if we were out in recess and, a bully pushed me or shoved me and, I would, let him have it. And then that would be the end of bullying. Right. But
As an
this
adult.
is work and
Right.
I'm an adult now.
Right.
So I can't assault another, human being because, now I'll be held accountable criminally. Right. For that. And so, if you don't have an outlet, if you don't have something that you're doing that's, helping to balance those mental health, experiences that you're having, it can be very dangerous, as you said. I did, want to take my own life. I did myself feel that there was no other choice or there was no other option. I did feel that this attorney was essentially stripping me from my career. This is my career. I went to college. I
There
have
you go.
a degree in this and this is what I want to do. And so I felt like she was just stripping me of that, just so flawlessly, so easily it was happening. And so, that was a very vulnerable moment for me. Not being able to sleep, crying uncontrollably, leaving the environment and just the weight is off your shoulders, but you go home, you go to bed, you wake up the next morning, and all of a sudden, you know, the anxiety, the stress, the aggravation, the intensity is, you know, back when you're getting ready to go back,
Right.
you know, to the environment. So the physical manifestations are very, very different, again, depending on the individual, their past, you know, things that they've dealt with in their life, different, or prior abuse essentially can magnify and compound these, workplace environments. You know, support systems are essential, because, you know, you go to work and you're there for, you know, 8, 9 hours a day, and then you come home, and then now your family, your husband, your children, are kind of now left to deal with you, to the, you know, with the decompression, and sometimes it's hard, almost impossible, to, you know, kind of change your mindset, because you have to go right back the next day.
And you bring all of that home
Yeah.
with you, and
Correct.
you can't help it. It does affect your home life as well.
Correct.
The partner doesn't want to see their person struggling,
Yeah.
and there's really nothing they can do. You know,
I mean,
but no one wants to see
like,
their
what do you
partner
do?
struggling, and
Yeah.
the kids
Correct.
having to get the brunt of, you know, mom always sad or depressed, or
Correct.
mom doesn't
Correct.
want to do this, or dad doesn't want to do this with me, because they don't understand what's happening when
Correct.
they're not around mom, when mom
Correct.
goes out that door, or dad goes out of that door to work. So
Correct. And the root of it, right, ladies, is, well, mom can't just quit her job.
no,
I mean, there you go.
or dad,
Right.
Yeah, you know,
Or
like we are in a current, you know, climate within our country, especially present day, you know, the financial aspect and the expenses of having to simply pay your mortgage or pay your rent and have gas and groceries.
Yeah.
just getting to work.
Yeah.
Yes, is very, very, you know, stressful for two people having, you know, great jobs and, you know, making a decent income, to have to think about, you know, half of that going away. And here's the thing, this is what I want to say about that. There is no amount of money that is worth your life.
Say it again.
No amount of money, no, 100,000, 200, I don't care how much it is. That amount of money has no value when it comes to your life. And you really have to, I think we have to value ourselves more, right? We have to value ourselves. We have to understand how much our life is worth. And if not to us, our children, if not to us, our partners.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We,
You know,
we
my
have,
mom had this saying. She always said, and I think she used to tell my father this: a peace of mind is always better than a piece of money. So just keep that in mind.
Okay.
correct.
That's true.
And it really comes down to our value system, our value system for ourselves.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, we tend to just completely dismiss how valuable we are and how much we're worth for a job.
Right.
It's missed, especially with women, women.
So
My opinion.
what do you
That's
think
true.
that's about specifically? Because you're touching on women and we're the ladies. So let's talk about, like, even like your clientele. Do you think it's predominantly women that you're representing? Like, what's going on here?
Yes, great question. So yes, most of my clients, 95% of my clients are women.
Say that again.
95.
Say that number again. So
Yes,
that our audience can
95%
hear.
of my
She said
target
95.
95.
are women, correct. And of the 95% of women targets, 100% of them are being bullied by other women.
Can you also break those statistics down a little bit more into maybe groups, what groups you're seeing more of when it comes to the women?
What do you mean groups? Like within professional organizations?
Yes. Are you seeing more, or even maybe are you seeing more in labor groups, or are you seeing more in professional groups, or that type type of environment?
Yes. So a large percentage of my clients are in the healthcare industry. So,
Goodness.
so nurses.
Mhm.
I would say the second largest organization is in the education arena. So
Oh.
teachers.
Mm.
And then I would say in law.
In law.
And, you know,
No
in
one would have thought
Wow, I
that.
never thought that. That's wild.
well, in the legal world, so you have, it's kind of like the same dynamic in the medical field, right? So in the medical field you have doctors and the nurses, right? And then in the legal field you have attorneys and
Attorney.
paralegals,
Paralegals,
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
or attorneys and support staff, okay?
Mhm.
And so I have seen, I can't even tell you, in so many different offices where support staff are completely afraid of, literally scared of an attorney.
Well,
And you know, I've never been intimidated by an attorney. I've never been fearful of an attorney. I've never been afraid of an attorney. I've never felt that an attorney is better than me or smarter than me or knows more than me. They are simply, you know, they have a job to do. I have a job to do.
Right. We're all in our own lane.
Correct.
Right.
But we're all one team here. And,
Supposed
you
to
know,
be.
in law and like in the medical field, you know, we have one person who we're all working for. And this one person is, you know, you have your job for this person, I have my job for this person, but together collectively, like our job is together for this person. And that's really who we should, you know, respect, and who we should, you know, kind of, you know, curtsy to, essentially, right? Because it's this one person, it's the client, it's the patient, you know, like we need to take care of them, right?
right.
So I mean, I remember, you know, working in a law office one time, and you know, this support professional was like, well, the attorney's office is over there, and, you know, like if his door isn't open, you know, don't go knock on it. If you hear him in there, you know, and I looked at her and I said, I need this letter signed.
I'm going in.
Gotta get it so-
I'm going in.
And I'm not gonna sit here all
And
day.
wait. Right.
And, you know, because his door is shut. I just like, so what? His, like, this is his job. This is what he's supposed to do. I mean, you know, and I just remember her just being horrified, just like, oh my God, you just can't go knock on his door. And I remember going and knocking on his door, and he wasn't a nice attorney. You know, he barked, what? You know, and I was like, hey, Mr. So-and-so, I need this letter signed, you know, and walk in there and here you go. And then, you know, and then turn around and walk out. And the other support professional, she just was like beside herself. I thought she was going to leave the office. I thought she was going to quit. She was just so afraid.
She was afraid for you. So scared. Okay.
Yeah. And,
Or was she scared for you? Maybe she was scared that was going to fall back on her at some point because you did step out of place.
yeah. And like, I just really gave it no attention.
Right.
You know, like, again, I'm here to do a job.
Exactly.
And, you know, I can't sign this letter. You know, I can't write the letter and put my signature on it and sign it. And please, if I could, I absolutely would do it, because like, the attorney's busy, the attorney's doing attorney things, right? But there obviously are things that, you know, in the legal world, in the medical world, that, you know, the doctors have to sign or the nurses can sign. You know, there's variance there, right? But to be intimidated by or feel threatened by another human being that is essentially there to do, you know, the job collectively that you're there to do, I just never understood it. I still, to this day, you know, and it has caused me problems. I definitely would say that, you know, like, but when you're confident, when you're sure of yourself, when you know who you are and you know what you're doing, I don't care what environment you're in, you're going to make people uncomfortable.
Oh, that is so true. Speaking of people, let's talk on that real quick. So when you're saying making people uncomfortable, I think they call that term mobbing. So what do you do if you have a whole team against you or a whole department against you? What do you do then?
Yeah, so great question. So mobbing, the definition of mobbing essentially is the ringleader or the bully rallies other people within the organization or within the office to join in on the mobbing, joining on the
Yes.
bullying or the harassment of you.
Okay.
And so that's what mobbing is.
Right.
So, the bully rallies the troops and then they all start to mob you because again, they don't want to be the target.
Right.
Okay.
So, they're doing it, they're joining in, they're being rallied and they're joining in on the mobbing because they're protecting themselves.
Yeah. And they're not necessarily being brought in with the truth. What I
Correct.
do know is when these bosses or these people who are intimidating their employees, excuse me, they're not necessarily going to these other workers and giving them the truth. They're giving them what they want them to know to then allow them to come and team up. So they're not hearing exactly what's going on.
Right.
And they're not necessarily knowing.
Like toxic gossip.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not even knowing the truth, period, a lot of times. In those cases, a lot of times they're just pulling people so that they can be on their side and they have that. And that's all they have with it.
Correct. And oftentimes bullies are very insecure individuals.
Yeah.
The reason why they rally the mob because they aren't, confident and courageous and bold enough to stand on their own within their own right. So they build this, rally of other people around them to support them, which makes them feel more powerful. But they're actually very, very powerless because if you catch them outside without the mob,
Catch them
they have
outside.
nothing to say to you. Yeah, they're silent. They have nothing to say to you. So they're, the
That
mob
would
is
love to know what was really going on because if it did happen outside, they would really know the truth and it might change their opinion of that person.
Yeah.
Correct. But they will never change places with you.
No, they will never change places with you.
Yeah. That's a great question. Great
Yeah.
question.
And if, say, for instance, you do walk away or terminated, whatever the case may be, is it truly possible to recover your career and reputation if you're forced out by that bully?
Oh, that's
So I will say absolutely 1000% yes.
I love
And
Say
I say
1,000%.
Yes.
You can recover.
absolutely.
You will be better than you were there ever.
Yes, absolutely. And the reason why I say that is because I did it myself.
And I did too. So yes.
I love that.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I actually publicly announced my bullying. Publicly announced it. At the time that I was being bullied in the workplace, I was a pageant queen. I had competed in plus size pageantry and had won a title. And so I was, making appearances. I was, attending fashion shows. I was, going to the pageant. I was very well known within my community. Okay. And my community knew that I was a paralegal and they knew that I worked at Allstate. And when I was bullied in the workplace, my doctor actually pulled me out of the job under FMLA protections and under workplace accommodation requests. I was pulled out of my job for 4 months. And so during that 4 months, this was back in 2014, 2015, no one was talking about bullying in the workplace. There was nothing online. There was nothing. No one was talking about bullying in the workplace back then at all. And so I had dinner with a very good friend of mine, Marcrae Thibodeau. Shout out to Marcrae.
Hey,
and she said to me, Miss Camay, you have to talk about this.
Yes.
You have to talk about this and you have to talk about this publicly. This is your assignment. You have got to do this. There are people who are suffering and you are the one to talk about this. And so I sat for several weeks, and thought, okay, if I talk about this publicly, who's going to give me a job? Who's going to hire me? Like if I, come out and announce that this is happening and if I become vocal about it, jobs aren't going to want to hire me, and then I might not ever become employable, and all the things, right?
Right.
And so I made the decision, because I watched a YouTube video of a mother who was narrating this video of her adult daughter, and she was talking about, like, she knew her daughter was being, kind of going through some things at work, but she had no idea that it would cause her daughter to take her own life. And I was horrified at this video. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, like, come out publicly and I'm going to talk about this. And what I did was I put together a fashion and entertainment event, coming from pageantry and modeling. And I announced I was breaking the silence around workplace bullying with this event. So
This event?
yes, so it was, this fashion and entertainment event. I had live entertainment.
I love that.
I actually brought in the National Workplace Bullying Coalition as my charity of choice, because they're a nonprofit. So I
Yeah.
was raising funds for this charity.
I love it.
And people, I was on Twitter, I was tagging Allstate, I was on Facebook, I was tagging Allstate. I mean, I was not silent or quiet at
Wow.
all about it while I was working. While I,
While you were working.
yes,
Yes, ma'am.
I was pulled out of work for 4 months, and in that 4 months, I was putting together this event, and then I ultimately went back to the office after 4 months of talking about this event, and we were having photo shoots, and we were out in the community, and we were passing out tickets, and I was tagging. I was not. I'm telling you, I was very bold and very courageous and very out loud about what was going on, because I believed that it needed to be said.
Yeah.
Right.
And my goal and my focus and my intention was to save lives. Yeah. So, I ultimately was terminated from that job. I ultimately did, job search.
Is that
And
because of the tagging?
yes.
Oh, come on.
So this is the decision that I came to. And so for anybody who's watching this, who's
Listen up.
this same, kind of going down the same road, like, I can't talk about this, I can't, come out and say anything because no one is going to give me a job. If you interview with the potential employer and, you tell them I left my job because I was bullied in the workplace, and I told, HR or whatever, and if that job is like, and if they decide that they don't want to hire you, you don't want to work for that job anyway.
That's going to be the same environment.
Yeah, if you have a prospective employer that you talk about, bad behavior in the workplace, and if it happens, you're going to report it. And if they don't hire you, that's not your workplace. That is not your tribe. That's not your environment. That place is not for you.
Yeah.
They're doing you a favor.
Yes.
And I
you
was
up front.
yes, and I was very convicted. Very convicted in my job search, and very convicted in my message. I was bullied in the workplace. I reported it. I was pulled out of my work. I went back 4 months later. They ultimately, terminated me. It's wrong. People are our American workforce, the people who are keeping these corporate wheels, the stock market, the insurance, the people who are keeping this whole machine
people
running and oiled and greased. These are the people who are suffering.
Yeah.
I don't think we should be tolerating it as a country, let alone the world.
Exactly.
We are the ones keeping it going.
Thank
And
you.
so I made the decision that, if there's a workplace or an office that does not want to hire me, because I'm going to report bad behavior, I'm completely okay with that. And I will share with you ladies, here I am. This has been 10 years later. I ultimately relocated from Washington State to Las Vegas because of that experience. So I had to start over because I could not get a job.
Okay.
And
It happens.
Las Vegas. I'm married now.
Congrats.
We're celebrating our 6 years of marriage next week, actually.
I love it.
I never would have met my husband in Seattle because he never would have come there. He never would have come to Seattle for anything. Um, I have a corporate job with a private law firm out of California that is phenomenal. It is a phenomenal office. I just celebrated my 3-year anniversary working with this corporate client, this corporate employer. They value me. They respect me. They appreciate me. And they would never mistreat me.
Well, I guess they wouldn't at this point. I mean,
Not Miss Camay. Okay.
let me ask you this, Miss Camay, finally. How do we keep our divine purpose intact when someone is trying to tear us down every day? Can you tell our listeners?
So you have to understand that everything that that person is saying, everything that they're doing is all about them. It's all about them and their trauma. It's all about them and their triggers. It's all about them and their belief system and their
insecurities
programming that they have adopted in their life. And it's so much easier for people to point the finger than to turn around and hold the mirror up and look at themselves and do the work.
Yes.
So in any scenario, whether it's, in work, in runway and modeling and pageantry, because I've been targeted in pageantry as well. Winning,
Beauty.
being a winner.
Yes.
Earlier I said, when you're confident, when you're bold, when you're courageous, it can make people who are inferior feel uncomfortable. And so if you're making someone uncomfortable, you have to understand that's power right there.
Yeah. And it's not your problem.
That's not your
Correct.
problem.
It's all about them,
Yes.
where they're at. Trauma is real. Trauma is
Yeah.
real. My husband and I, in the last 6 years, we've done a lot of work on our trauma and what triggers our trauma,
Yeah.
because we both have it. Very different types of life trauma, but nonetheless, the trauma and being triggered.
Yes.
And it takes a lot, to work on ourselves. It
really
takes a
does.
lot of courage to hold the mirror up in front of yourself and look at yourself and see yourself. It's so easy to point the finger and, oh, she this or, oh, he that. That's why people do it.
Yep.
That's why people do it. So that's what I would say. If somebody in the workplace, is harassing you, is bullying you, keep your personal power. Understand that there's something about you. Your fabulousness is making them uncomfortable. And it's all about them and where they're at and what they've got going on and what they're dealing with.
Well, while you're on that thought, why don't you go ahead and give our listeners and our audience some resources they can go to in the event that they might be experiencing workplace bullying?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would tell people go to YouTube and search for Miss Camay International. On my channel, on Miss Camay International, you will actually find a webinar presentation that I actually taught that talks about what you can do if you're being bullied in the workplace, steps that you can take essentially in regards to building your medical support team, understanding your rights as an American with a disability, and how you can actually properly document what's happening to you, and essentially set yourself in a position where you can potentially negotiate your exit strategy in power. I would also say go to nationalworkplacebullyingcoalition.org. Go to the website, and we've got blog posts that some of our members, board members have written. We've got resources that board members share on our website. We've got links there where you can actually go and connect with other professionals who have built their consulting business on the topic. who consult with certain organizations or certain industries like the educational industry or the healthcare industry that are skilled in terminology and processes within those industries. Like myself, law, I'm very skilled within the legal world, right? And the hierarchy of it. And so that's what I would encourage you to do. Seek out people who have had this experience. And like the final thing that I would say is we want to move forward. And we want, yes, we've been violated. Yes, we've been bullied. Yes, we've been abused, right? But we don't want to stay a victim. We don't want to remain in the victimhood, right? And so, and it's easy to do that. It's easy to stay there.
Right.
And so, if, your support system, your friends, your family, seek out people who have overcome the situation.
Right.
Seek out people who have moved forward and have moved up and have elevated themselves. Because there are a lot of people, unfortunately, in this space who are still kind of in the trenches and aren't necessarily the best supporters or the best advocates or the best support system for you to have, because this is all about elevation. It's about elevating your self-worth, elevating your power, elevating your courage and your boldness to understand that you're so much more than where you're at, the bottom of this crab bucket. Like there's a top up here that you can get to.
Well, you know what? And that from an HR perspective, I'm just going to tell you, get a notebook today, write down dates, witnesses, any specific impact. Documentation is your evidence.
Yes.
Miss Camay, we want to thank you so much for being a light for so many and that have gone through this and are trekking through it right now. And if you happen to be one of those people, pay attention to this episode. And she has given gems. She has dropped gems on how to get through this, as well as where to go for resources. Absolutely. We want to thank you so much for your time, Ms. Camay. We certainly appreciate it. And, as things go on and these acts are passed, hopefully in Congress and as such, we hope to bring you back at some point and talk a little bit more about things as they develop. How's that?
Yes, I would love to. I will keep you updated with our progress here in the state of Nevada. With our lobbying efforts with DAWA. We've made some great contacts with some great legislators. We really hope to get to the governor's office. Governor Joe Lombardo, if you're watching this, I'm coming for you. And I'm going to show you how we can improve our workplaces here in the state of Nevada and continue to generate great money around this lovely, lovely valley. So get ready.
Ms. Camay, we just want to say thank you again. You've truly helped us live up to our tagline today, awareness into action. So don't forget, people, hit that like and subscribe to our channel. It goes a long way in supporting us in these important causes.
And the conversation doesn't stop here. For our dedicated supporters, stick around for our after show called
Tea Time. Tea Time is where we get to connect with our closest community. And if you want to be a part of that inner circle and get instant access to our after show,
what are they going to do?
Go to our website at
www.TheDailyBalanceMedia.com
to subscribe and join to our community Tea Time. Until our next episode, always remember, count it all joy.
See you next time.
Peace.
That's it right there.